My parents stole my wedding fund to pay for my sister's fake career. I was left with nothing but canceled contracts and their cruel laughter. They thought they taught me a lesson in scale. They were wrong. I took their lesson in independence and planned a secret wedding with one goal: to announce my marriage at my sister's party and watch the family's silence break. My name is Ava, and until 8 months ago, I was the human equivalent of a participation trophy in my own family. I'm 28, a freelance UX designer, and for 3 years, I'd been meticulous. Every latte skipped, every extra shift taken. It was all going toward planning a wedding with my fiancé, Liam. Nothing extravagant, just a beautiful celebration of commitment. My parents, who are quite well off, promised to cover the reception hall. I thought, this is it, my moment to be truly supported. It never happened. The setting was a trendy downtown restaurant, not for a happy planning session, but for my public humiliation. My parents, my aunts and uncles, they were all there, supposedly to toast our final preparations. But the second my mother, Eleanor, cleared her throat and tapped her champagne flute, I knew. "Everyone," she announced, her smile brittle, "a quick update on Ava's wedding plans." My heart didn't jump with pride, it dropped with dread. "We've decided the money we'd set aside is going to Seraphina's business launch instead, an emergency infusion of capital." The table went silent. Seraphina, my younger sister, is a full-time aspiring influencer with a part-time interest in actually working. Ava, my mother continued, addressing the table, not me, has always been so resourceful. She's an independent spirit. She won't need the handout that our little entrepreneur Seraphina does. Aunt Carol quickly chimed in. "You're an architect, darling. Of course you'll build your way out of this." I wanted to scream, "I'm a designer, and the only thing I'm building is resentment." "But the contracts are signed," I managed, my voice a thin wire. "Oh, those," my father Victor said, waving his hand dismissively. "We called the hotel, got most of the deposit back. It's a valuable lesson in scale, Ava. You were getting a little carried away." That's when my father's golf buddy, Uncle Ben, actually snickered. Kids these days, right? Think they need a castle and a crown. The hot flush of shame spread from my neck to my hairline. Within 20 minutes, the table was empty except for my parents, who were now talking about Seraphina's trip to Milan to network. My canceled wedding was less significant than the side salad. The humiliation became a family sport. I learned through an elaborate Instagram story that my parents were throwing Seraphina's a seed money soiree, a black tie bash to celebrate her impending financial success. I wasn't invited. Period. Then came the final cruel straw. My father called me asking for a family favor. "Ava, honey, we need you to design the branding for Seraphina's new product line. Pro bono, of course." "You want me to work for free?" I asked, the familiar burn rising. "It's family," he said, the word a heavy anchor. "Besides, think of it as practice. You'll need the exposure when you launch your own little shop someday." My own little shop? My established, successful freelance career was a hobby, a child's lemonade stand, only valuable when it served Seraphina. That night, surrounded by discarded vendor contracts, Liam and I sat in silence. "We could just elope," he whispered. "No," I said. The word was not a gentle refusal, but a granite declaration. "I am not running away. Not anymore." I looked at Liam, and a new feeling, cold and sharp, replaced the grief. Clarity. What my family didn't know was that while they were parading Seraphina's fictional career, I was quietly running a highly profitable side hustle, creating sleek, high-end branding for tech startups. They saw the struggling junior designer. I was the ghost designer with a rapidly swelling escape fund. They also didn't know that I had been documenting their cruelty for months. Screenshots of texts, audio recordings of broken promises, a digital ledger of every time they chose the golden child over the responsible one. But the real secret involved Aunt Vivian, Liam's mother's sister. Vivian had built a wildly successful boutique event company after a similar family split decades ago. When she heard my story, she made me an offer. "We throw you a wedding so unexpected, so perfect, they'll choke on their caviar. But here's the twist. It's a covert operation. They get no updates, no invites, not a single clue." While my parents posted photos of Seraphina's luxurious shopping spree, paid for with my venue money, Vivian and I were meeting with florists, securing a private gallery space, and quietly, brilliantly, building my dream wedding from scratch. I overheard my mother on the phone one evening. "Ava will just have to learn to manage expectations. Should we get Seraphina a little something extra for the launch party? That diamond tennis bracelet she liked?" The invitation to Seraphina's seed money soiree arrived 3 days later, a thick, embossed card requesting that guests bring a handcrafted dessert to symbolize collective effort. Of course, even at her own party, I was expected to work. I showed up at Seraphina's elaborate pre-celebration with a masterpiece of a cake and a secret that felt like a supernova. The entire family was there, orbiting Seraphina, gushing over her new designer accessories. "Ava made this incredible cake," my mother announced, condescendingly proud of my small domestic skill. "Thanks, Mom," I said, placing it down. "I have a small announcement, too." "Oh, did you finally set a new, more sensible date?" Aunt Carol asked with a pitying smirk. "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone, "Liam and I got married last weekend." The dining room went instantly, terrifyingly silent. "What?" My mother's voice was a choked sound. "A gorgeous ceremony at the historic Blackwood Gallery," I continued, scrolling through the photos Vivian had captured. "A small, intimate, absolutely perfect. Here's the first dance. And here's the venue you said was completely out of my league." My father grabbed the phone, his face gray. "How? With what money? We canceled your budget." "I taught me to be resourceful and independent," I said, taking my phone back. "So I learned to depend on my own bank account instead of your broken promises." "But we're your family. We should have been there," my mother whimpered, the tears of a woman who has just lost control. "Family shows up," I countered, the words firm and unshakable. "You didn't. You chose a phantom business launch over my real future. You taught me where I stand." Seraphina finally spoke. "Ava, I truly didn't know." "Of course you didn't, because you're only interested in the spotlight, and I was happy to stay in the shadows. Until now." I looked directly at my mother and father. The wedding was planned by Aunt Vivian. She specializes in helping people create beautiful beginnings after their families let them down. I picked up my purse and walked toward the door, my heels clicking on the marble. "Ava, please," my father called, the sound of genuine fear in his voice. I paused, turning back one last time. "Enjoy the cake," I said, meeting their eyes with a smile that was finally, truly my own. I paid for it myself, just like the rest of my life. That was 8 months ago. Liam and I just celebrated our first Thanksgiving in our own apartment with Aunt Vivian and a few incredible friends who are now our chosen family. My parents call, but I never answer. The Christmas card they sent was shredded without being opened. Seraphina moved back home. The business launch fizzled. She's still waiting for a magical solution to appear, still expecting my parents to solve her problems. As for me, my UX design business is thriving. When you stop fighting for recognition from the wrong people, you can pour all that energy into creating something amazing. I finally understand that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. And their silence, it didn't hurt me. It set me free. If you've ever had to stand up to family betrayal and choose your own happiness, hit that subscribe button right now and tell me your story in the comments. Where are you watching from? Drop it below. I check every single comment. Your story deserves to be heard.